Welcome to Psychos and Sociopaths. Today we're going to talk about Aileen Wuornos?
Wuornos. Yeah.
There was a lot of depictions of movies. The main one that a lot of people talk about is the movie Monster with Charlize Theron because she went overweight, ugliered herself up so she can actually do the role because that chick went through a freaking ugly forest and slammed down to a just a bonfire crap dumpster fire. and her girlfriend that we'll get to the girlfriend, but she was ugly too. But anyways.
And in no way, shape, form, or fashion is he trying to marginalize the aesthetic qualities of the females in the world. At all. No, because you're not that kind of a person.
Fuck yeah, I'm that kind of person.
Okay, see, I was trying to save you, but whatever. Okay.
There's no saving me off of that one. I'll straight up look at a person and go, hey, would you date me, right? No. I had, get really off topic on this one.
This will be the last episode we do, by the way. The cancel culture will get a hold of us pretty proper.
Yeah, we could do this stuff right now because they're popularity so low. No, I literally had a chick one time.
The internet is forever.
I know, right? I had a chick, she comes up to me, she's like, I wouldn't date you because I'm friends with your sister. Thank God. I had this whole speech set up together to where I had to tell you I didn't find you attractive. We still hang out.
Oh, that's the positive takeaway.
Yeah. Well, Aileen was a sex worker / American serial killer, even though through all the interviews that was done with Aileen, verified that she was not a serial killer. She wasn't one of those people that killed in a mass way and torture and sadistic way, which hands down there are worse serial killers out there.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, yeah,
we've only touched the female serial killers a little bit, in a bad way, just, verbally touched. You know what, we're just going to keep on continuing. Anyways,
how about scratch the surface?
Scratch the surface, there we go.
go.
Scratch the surface. I knew there was terminology for that one.
Yeah.
Anyways, she did this in Florida between 1989 and 1990 by shooting them point blank with a .22. She was sentenced to death, and she had a lethal injection in October 9, 2002. On 2003, the movie was actually released. There's actually I would call it a B-rated movie.
Yeah, Overkill?
Well, TV movie.
Yeah, it was that Overkill, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and based on that 60 Minutes Australia video that you sent me about it,
yeah,
the DA, he was not happy about it because there was a lot of sheriff's deputies that were involved with, a lot of investigators that were involved with the case that were basically selling themselves out just to be a part of the movie. So they were trying to get rich quick, and he didn't really appreciate all that.
No one ever really appreciates that. Though.
Right. And the thing about her getting the lethal injection, I found kind of odd. And it was kind of almost like, it was almost like Florida's last middle finger up, in her face because she wanted the chair.
Yeah, that was a strange thing I found out. Reading that was weird. Reading the
that was me.
Reading the articles and everything, I thought she got the electric chair. Then. That was one thing about this whole research on this one, and some of the stuff that we research on this, it goes from one source to another source, to where one source says one thing and another source says totally different. Like, I didn't find out about the lethal injection until, you just told me. I thought she got the chair because the couple of videos kept on showing. I was like, this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna electrify her. We're gonna just jar her up with electricity. But
yeah. I mean, and the thing that I picked up on through all of the interviews that I saw, was she was claiming self-defense the whole time. And what I really found kind of, the whole narcissistic thing about her was the fact that, I mean, it's almost like the things that she said on camera or on record where, hey, look at me, I did this, I did that. But the one thing that really stuck out to me about the 60-minute interview was when she was talking about, she was like, well, there were several men in between all of those men. And it's like, you still shot 7 guys at point-blank range over the course of 12 months. But she was like, yeah, but there were so many other men that I didn't. I mean, they survived. It was just the jerks. And it was like she felt...
Well, there's a couple of the men that she actually murked. And that's a term I'm going to use nowadays, murky.
Right, okay. But, I mean, she felt...
He was a piece of shit.
Well, I mean, all that aside...
Is that yours or mine?
Oh, that's our prop for the book. But, with the... There's that phrase again. I'm really working on trying to not say,
It's hard. It's hard once you find out you're doing something. It's hard to get over it.
But with the, it's just the whole process that she used to feel justified in her actions.
All right, talking about justification, we're going to go into her life right now. Aileen, her actual first name is Aileen Carl Pittman. She was born in Rochester, Michigan on February 29th, 1956. Her mother, Dana Wuornos, was 14.
Dana, I found it as Diane.
Diane.
Yeah, she was 14 when she was married to Aileen's father, 16-year-old Leo Dale Pittman. Let me see here.
On June 3rd, 1954.
Mm-hmm.
Eileen's older brother, Keenan, was born. God, they were kids when they were...
Yeah, kids having kids.
Yeah. After this is 2 years of the marriage and 2 months before Aileen was born, David filed for divorce. He was actually incarcerated at the time of the birth and is diagnosed with schizophrenia and later convicted of sex crimes against children. He committed suicide by hanging in prison in 1969. In 1960, when it just jumps around way too much on this one.
Yeah, so what I found, okay, so in 60, Aileen was almost 4 years old. Their mom up and left. And so the grandparents, Lori and Britta Wuornos, both alcoholics, legally adopted Keith and Aileen on March 18th of 1960.
And here's another case where the parental figure in the life
the parental figure
was a piece of shit.
Yeah, because it shows by age 11, Aileen was turning.
She was turning tricks because I found 13 to 11, and the reason why she was turning tricks is because the grandfather was raping her, and so also the older brother.
Yeah. Okay. I see where that. Yeah. Okay. So.
But I got it from one article. It was 13. So I just say preteen.
Yeah. So from age 11 to 13, she would be beaten, and before beating her, he'd make her strip down. At the age of 14, and even that age is debatable.
I found.
But
preteens yet again.
Yeah, she got pregnant after having being raped either by her grandfather himself or by a friend of his. She gave birth to a boy at the home or at a home for unwed mothers on March 23rd in 71. She placed the kid up for adoption. You almost kind of want to know where the son is. Just to
I
kind
couldn't
of.
find anything.
I didn't either. So and I think that actually kind of in a way, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's good to actually keep that out.
Yeah, because
Some things should never be.
yeah, what is it? The son, is responsible for the sins of the father or something like that.
Yeah.
But let me see here. A few months after her son was born, she dropped out of school. Her grandmother died of liver failure, and then she was kicked out of the house about age of 15.
Then the grandfather died of suicide because of all this stuff that he probably ended up doing.
But she started working her way up and down the street, up and down the highways of Florida
at first
as a
it was always
prostitute.
like cigarettes and alcohol and drugs and food. And then, well, actually her grandfather threw her out of the house by 15. And like I said, we really can verify. And that's when she actually started supporting herself as a sex worker. And she wasn't like, she even said in the interview, it's like, I wasn't a high price. It was $40 to $100.
Yeah. Well, and she said in that interview on 60 Minutes Australia was she kept her prices low because she wanted her customers happy. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay.
But she was just fuck ugly, though.
Well, I think a lot of that is the byproduct of her drug abuse.
No, have you seen her teeth? I mean, it looked like...
Byproduct of her drug abuse.
Okay.
And not to disparage against a particular sect of drug abusers, but, if you speak Mexican American, you're not going to have the best grill in the entire world.
Okay, yeah.
So...
I like that Mexican American. I literally thought it was like, are you trying to say Mexican American?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay, that makes sense now.
So she met a 69-year-old yacht club president named Louis Fell. They got married in 76. They announced their nuptials in the local papers, society pages. So basically, this was her foray into gold digging, I guess.
Yeah.
But she would continually get in, confrontations at the local bar. She went to jail for assault briefly. She also hit her husband with his own cane, leading him to gain a restraining order against her within weeks of the marriage. She returned to Michigan, where in July of 76, she was arrested in Antrim County and charged with assault and disturbing the peace for throwing a cue ball at the bartender's head. So you could argue that...
I don't think she was angry at all with her life.
Well, she had some issues with temper.
I don't think...
But, I mean, there were some other things that were going on in her life where, like, her brother Keith... he died of esophageal cancer. She received $10,000 from his life insurance, and her and Fell annulled their marriage on July 21st after 9 weeks. She was given, let's see here, in August of that same year, $105 fine for drunk driving. She used the money inherited from her brother to pay the fine and spent the rest within 2 months buying luxuries, including a new car, which she wrecked shortly afterwards. So yeah, back in the day when $10,000 could get you a pretty good distance. But 81, she was arrested in Edgewater, Florida, for armed robbery of a convenience store. She stole $35 and 2 packs of cigarettes. Sentenced to prison in 82. She was released in June of 83. May 1st of 84, she was arrested for attempting to pass forged checks at a bank in Key West. November 30th of 85, she was named as a suspect in the theft of a revolver and ammunition in Pasco County. So she had, I mean, her life just, from the get-go.
It was a shitstorm.
Yeah, it was a shitstorm. So I don't want to say she didn't have much of a chance, but...
She didn't give herself a chance.
Yeah, she didn't give herself a chance because we all have that fight or flight, that gift of free will. The one that God gives us, that gift of free will. So, to say that she could blame this on all of her upbringing and stuff, like, yeah, you can go get counseling for it, you can get therapy for it, and you can rise above it, you can remove yourself from those environments, and that's fine. But ultimately, we're all responsible for the decisions that we make, for the actions that we take, all of that. And do I think that environmental factors play a part in it? To a degree, but not enough to the point where you can say, you take your hat off and rest it on that and say, this is why I am the way that I am. I don't buy it. Because especially with people with PTSD, anger issues and things of that nature, I think the anger, as far as like PTSD is concerned, I think that it's a byproduct of the PTSD itself. And we need to make the conscious decision to own those demons. So she could have made that conscious decision to own the demons that were in her life. And once she declared herself an owner over those demons, she could have made those choices to remove herself from those situations. And she could have actually become a very productive member of society. But she chose to give in to those ghosts. She chose to give in to those demons, and the narcissism just played right into it. And she really, I
wonder if narcissism is a byproduct of all the stuff that you have to keep on telling yourself, like at that situation, to where it's basically your brain telling you, okay, this is wrong, but you have to deal with this way instead of this way.
At a point, I think it does. And the reason why I say that is not to contradict myself from a few minutes ago, but I think it does to a certain point, because once you start telling yourself something so many times, you begin to believe it.
Yeah.
Your brain starts to rewire itself. And you'll see this a lot in the cases of like divorce, where whether it be the male or the female, it's not discriminatory at all. But whether it be the man or the woman in the marriage, when somebody feels like they've been slighted, or they are constantly exposed to enabling behaviors.
From the female or from the male.
Right, whether it be through friends, whether it be through family, it's like, oh, well, you're justified in doing this because of. Even if the accusation, even if what you're going off of is unfounded, okay? Like, say the female were to come in and say, well, I'm going to cheat because I was told you cheated. Well, how about you get your facts together before you go and throw your legs open?
Exactly.
And,
I've never understood that.
Right. And it's like 2 wrongs don't make a right. So, and if you're in that situation, you almost have to owe it to yourself to. Well, there is no almost to it. You have to owe it to yourself to make sure that you're giving yourself the due diligence of making sure you've got your facts straight before you start taking these decisions, because eventually it'll lead into a very slippery slope, and then you'll just go down that rabbit hole and you'll never come back. And you see it a lot in throughout society, and especially with the way that social media has enabled these behaviors. You get these people that are just, they've forgotten what it's like to get punched in the mouth. Not to advocate physical violence, but I'm just saying, like, back in the day, like you and I, when we went to school, people didn't bring guns to school. They did, but they stayed in the gun racks in the back of these rednecks' trucks.
Yeah.
And it was fine. But if we had a score to settle with somebody, you didn't go shooting the place up.
No.
You whooped their ass either after school or you did it in the bathroom between classes.
Well, it's like talking about ownership on something like that. I remember one time they had this stupid punching game. Even thinking of it now, it was really ridiculous. It was just see how tough you are, basically. Anyways, I did to one guy one time, and we constantly did it to each other. And then one day he had something wrong with his family or something like that, and I didn't know, and I did it, and square in the face. Went to principal office. Principal was like, Mr. Dickman, was it your fault or was it his fault? I was like, honestly, it was my fault. And then I asked him, I was like, hey, and this is at a young age, which is really perplexing for me. that I was actually this concerned about other people.
Right.
I was like, dude, you've never hit me in the face like that. We've been doing this often. What happened? It was like, well, my mom got on to me about some stuff. I was like, okay, I'm going to own this. Don't worry about it. It's all on me. Because it was my fault that I initiated it.
Yeah.
I initiated it, so I'm going to go ahead and take ownership of it. And the principal was, well, the vice principal at the time, she's like, you're taking ownership? I was like, well, I hit him.
Yeah.
Even though he was like, well, he shouldn't have wrecked like that. I probably did a good thing. That could have been something a lot worse. So I'll take the hit in the face.
Yeah.
And I don't bruise that well anyways at the time, so I could take a hit.
Yeah, so, I mean, but
But also go on the other note of, sorry if I'm interrupting.
No, you're good.
But going on the other aspects of things that happened to me in my lifetime that really should have made me, going toe-to-toe with most of the stuff that's happened in my lifetime, with the death of my mother, committing suicide, one of my exes taking my son, having a birth in her bathroom and throwing away the body. I mean, this is horrible stuff that has gone through my lifetime. And also, I was basically taking care of an 18-month-old kid, and the kid had to go back to the mother. And I found out after the fact, after the murder, because the boyfriend bashed the baby's head in. I mean, the baby had been basically tortured, hair pulled. They found blood stains on the scalp where the hair was being pulled, a fractured arm that they never fixed, basically a broken arm. That broke me.
Yeah.
And it took me about 2 years to get my fucking head right. But I'm one of those types of people that, unless it's an A10, it's not gonna kill me. I'm gonna go up a little bit better in my life.
Yeah.
But there are people that are that can and withstand that kind of punishment and everything and make it better. I mean, there's a laundry list of people that actually have more horrible stories than I do.
Yeah.
I know a person that had the same MO. She didn't turn into a killer. She actually became a really good prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the type of person, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's about I guess it's about the decision-making processes that we're able to acquire. Now, whether that be through the way that your parents instructed you or what, I think that a lot of the society's problems boil down to parenting and, the overall destruction of the family unit. Mm-hmm. But, you're always going to find a bad apple. And then that's not giving them a free pass to say, oh, well, you're just a bad apple. So, yeah, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying by a bad apple is that you're always going to have those shitbags out there that...
Like your Ted Bundys, your...
Well...
Richard Cunningham.
To a degree, yeah. But what I'm talking about is specifically as far as, like, parents. You're going to find those kids... You're going to find those people that are going to put...
all their stuff on the parents' fault.
Well, no. I mean, you're going to have those parents that just, they have no business being a parent.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, because neglect of a child is going to affect that kid later on down the road. And it's going to make their life that much harder to bring back towards the straight and narrow. And even straight and narrow, I mean, the people who live that preferred life where, you stay away from the crime, you stay away from the hatred, stay away from the bigotry. I mean, a lot of times you'll find those people encounter the largest obstacles.
But I haven't heard the fan when I was running, or the air conditioner, when I'm doing the film and everything.
Gotcha. But, getting back to Aileen, she was just bitter. And she chose to live in that. And almost to her defense, it's easier to live bitter than it is to have that degree of forgiveness that you need to move past things. So I mean, it's like she found that as a comfortable place for her, and over time, it just became institutionalized into her head that that this is the way that I need to live. And anytime a guy is a jerk to me, I'm well within my rights to put a bullet in his head. And it was it just, the longer that behavior, the longer that state of mind continued, it just compounded, and it just built up layers to the point where
you become numb to the
you just become numb to it. And I mean, if you go back and you look at her criminal history, I mean, armed robbery, check forgery, suspected theft of a revolver, car theft, resisting arrest, obstruction of justice. She was January 4th of '86 in Miami, obstruction of justice for providing identification bearing her aunt's name. So, she was pulled over, or she was questioned, asked for identification. She gave her aunt's ID, so that's obstruction of justice, and that's false identification, which I don't know if Florida's laws, but I don't know if that would be a law that they'd nail her on. But
yeah, you could.
That they found a .38 revolver and a box of ammunition in the stolen car. Let me see here. On June 2nd of '86, Volusia County deputy sheriffs detained her for questioning after a male companion accused her of pulling a gun in his car and demanding $200. So she's out there turning a trick, and then she's like, no, you're going to give me more money, kind of a thing. And she held him up at gunpoint.
Well, from what I looked at with the on her interviews and everything,
mm-hmm.
Once she turned 40, I guess she felt less attractive and everything, and she felt that she needed to do it this way instead of just, offering sex and everything.
Yeah, and not to, because now we have to be sensitive to the needs of the sex workers in the world. But, I mean, when you go looking for a prostitute, I mean, really, if you're paying for it, you're not going to be expecting a whole lot to begin with. And you know that these people, whether they be men or women, they've got issues. They've got dependency issues a lot of times. And
well, that's why I only date women that have daddy issues and the job revolves around a pole.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, okay.
Well, I date fire women.
I hate you sometimes. So she met, eventually, who became her
gay lover,
Tyra Moore. And let me see here, at a lesbian bar in Daytona Beach.
Yeah.
She was a hotel maid. They moved in together, and Wuornos supported both of them with her earnings as a sex worker. And on July 4th of '87, Beach police detained them both at a bar for questioning regarding an incident in which they were accused of assault and battery with a beer bottle. Let me see here. She was accused of. She accused a Daytona Beach bus driver of assault. She claimed that he pushed her off the bus following a confrontation. Moore was listed as a witness to the incident up until her execution. Wuornos still claimed that she was in love with Tyra Moore.
Which is really funny about that whole thing.
Yeah, considering that Tyra Moore became the star witness in the state's case against her.
Yeah, she just flat out just went up to the courts and was like, yeah, she told me she just killed a guy. And she was just totally all right with it. And then I just went, well...
Yeah, she looked at that as her golden ticket to get out of everything. So she was like, in exchange for my information, I want immunity, which I think that the prosecution gave her.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's a list of Aileen's victims. There's a Richard Charles Mallory, age 51. He was killed on November 30th of 89. He was an electronics store owner in Clearwater. He was a convicted rapist whom she claimed to have killed in self-defense. She said she was sodomized, brutally beaten after being driven to an abandoned area for sexual favors. 2 days later, the sheriffs in that county found his abandoned vehicle rather, and his body was found several miles away in a wooded area. Been shot several times. 2 bullets to the left lung were found to have been the cause of death. David Andrew Spears, age 47. He was a construction worker in Winter Garden. He was declared missing on May 19th of 90. And on June 1st of that same year, they found his naked body along the Route 19 in Florida in Citrus County. Been shot 6 times. So she just didn't like one shot, one kill these guys. I mean, it was
a rage kill.
It was rage, and I think to a certain point, it was done out of perverse pleasure, because even with the 22, you get these bush people up in Alaska, they can drop a moose with a 22.
Yeah.
So it just takes one shot to the head. But no, I mean, she shot them multiple times, so that's why I don't buy the self-defense argument. Because if you're shooting somebody in self-defense, the usual response for a person in self-defense, they'll get off a shot, maybe 2, and then they're going to flee the area. No, she stuck around and put 6 bullets in this guy.
Well, you also got to look at the factor of adrenaline at the moment, and her damaged psyche at that point could have been the fact of, hey, it was basically, okay, this person's beating on me, I'm going to have to rage kill this guy, and she just kept on unloading. On something like that, depending on the person. I mean,
you see those situations in like the movies, and then like, oh, she got off because of temporary insanity or whatever. Even then you're going to get 1 or 2 shots, maybe 3 at the most, as it relates to self-defense. So the whole, hey, I put 6 bullets in him, but it was still self-defense. I'm not buying it. I'm just not. It's not something that I'm willing to accept. And obviously the prosecution in Florida, they didn't buy it either, because, I mean, they're looking at it as, this is excessive. That's excessive force. Charles Clarkston, he was 40 years old, part-time rodeo worker. They found his body on June 6th of 1990 in Pasco County. He'd been shot 9 times with a .20 caliber weapon. Body had been wrapped.
I think that's 22. It might have just been a mess up on theirs.
It may be. The body had been wrapped in an electric blanket, and it was badly decomposing when he was found. She was seen with his car, and had also pawned a gun identified as belonging to him. So let's just say, self-defense. Again, fight or flight's going to kick in, and then you're going to be, out there with. I mean, you're gonna pop smoke. You're gonna flee the area. She took the time to put 9 holes in him and then wrap him up in a blanket. And then she's going to take his crap and she's going to pawn it. So, yeah, not buying that.
Had to change mics. There we go.
Yeah, okay. Peter Abrams Simons, 65, retired merchant seaman, June of 1990. He left Jupiter, Florida for Arkansas. And on July 4th, his car was found in Orange Springs, Florida. Both Moore and Wuornos were seen abandoning his car, and Wuornos' palm print was found on the interior door handle. His body was never found. Troy Burris, age 50, sausage salesman from Ocala. July 31st of 90. He was reported missing, and they found his body on August 4th in a wooded area along State Road 19 in Marion County. He'd been shot twice. Charles Richard Humphreys. He was 56. Found him on September 11th of 1990. He retired Air Force Major and former state child abuse investigator and former chief of police. September 12th of 90, they found his body in Marion County. He was fully clothed and had been shot 6 times in the head and torso. He was found in Shawnee County. So, again, she goes, I mean, the whole self-defense, I mean, to her credit, between Burris and Humphreys, yeah, so the MO changed a little bit. She only shot him twice versus this Humphreys guy. She shot him 6 times.
Yeah, that was the one thing that just really messed everything up for me because of the basic fact of you have a couple of them that looked like they were going to be dirtbags. But this is just me observing what I'm reading.
Right.
And when you get down to the last ones, it just seems like these people, their MO of what they are could be totally different. Of course, this is a different time frame too.
And then there's Walter Antonio, age 62, trucker, security guard, and police reservist. On November 19th of 90, his nearly naked body was found near a remote logging road in Dixie County. He had been shot 4 times. 5 days later, his car was found in Brevard County. So, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, it just with those 7 guys.
Yeah.
I don't buy the whole self-defense argument. And if you watch enough interviews of her, her story kept evolving. It kept changing. She would change the little details here and there, and you could almost some people could chalk that up. Say, well, you know, recollection is different at different points. Some things may spark a memory here, may spark a memory there.
No, she was a avid liar to the point where all of her stuff was changing really fluidly.
Yeah.
So all the stuff you really couldn't. And even when you look at the court case at the end of the court trial, what she was doing, it was hilarious. In my opinion, it was hilarious only because by the time that everything was going through, the judge was making his statement and the jury was making their statement.
And she kept she would look at the jurors and
y'all's
at one point,
of shit. I'm going to heaven. Y'all going to hell.
Yeah, you know, she's like, I'm going to be up in heaven. Y'all going to go to hell. And she was sitting at one point, told one of the jurors that she hopes that his wife and daughters are being raped right then.
Yeah, it was. She was not sane at all. She was shy of. And what's really sad is throughout this whole thing, a person, I got it right here, Aileen Wuornos, she's a Christian advocate that ended up adopting her.
Yeah.
thinking that she's going to have a life sentence, they're going to take a vacation down the road. I mean, she was very hopeful. She was very hopeful, but what ended up happening is she ended up getting the chair. Well, the injection chair, not the electric chair. Even though most of the interviews and this whole thing researching is very hard because even from the actual reporters, you're getting words on one variation on one side and a totally different variation on the other.
Yeah.
But it was.
I had mentioned to you on the way over here. Yeah. You know, when I saw that interview with the adopted mom, the shirt she was wearing, I initially thought she was another inmate.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like,
taking care of the horses.
Yeah, I'm like,
farm.
What kind of Florida shit is this? Like, oh my God.
Well, you actually be surprised. You know what? I wonder if she was. I didn't find it.
I don't think so, because
makes...
more footage from that later on in the interview. I mean, she had the dangly earrings, and I think it was just a striped top that she was wearing. It was almost like a scrub top, because she had jean shorts on with sandals. I mean, I know Florida operates on a different wavelength than everybody else, but I don't think that they were going to be like that laxed, because, you know, those earrings could technically be used to be, you know, fashioned into weapons, that kind of thing. But
no, they actually, you'd be surprised what they're allowed to have, makeup and everything like that. They're allowed to have earrings, as long as it's not like, even the guys are allowed to have earrings. Some of the stuff is very weird. I'm just curious about this whole thing, because I want to take a better look at it, about that. Scene. The other thing that I like about the whole the prosecutor is no, that's not that's an actual, that's not an inmate. I can tell right now, just because the camera angle and everything like that. They actually keep the horses.
you know what I found funny? I found funny, like, when they interviewed her public defender. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is about a Grizzly Adams reject-looking dude who wants to be a folk singer.
Yeah.
He was singing in the car about plea deals, and I'm like, what is this guy's deal? You know?
Yeah, no.
And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, you know, because the interviewer looked at him and goes, "Did it ruin your career?" He was like, "Oh yeah, it didn't do me any favors." You know, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, dude, you're not doing yourself any favors either.
Well, it could have changed up, because this is done in like the 90s, and it took about 10 years or so to actually murky her in the electric chair. But I still like how she was actually caught. It was, I guess it was a sting operation. They actually found out where she was and everything. And it was a sting operation to the point to where cop came in, got her to come out, and there were 6 other cops, and they arrested her there. And even then, it was like, I was playing my favorite song, and I kind of got upset about that, and I got arrested. I'm like, oh my God, some people just have this euphoria of how things are supposed to go down.
You know what I found funny too, when you talking about her favorite song, it was the Randy Travis, "I'm Digging Up Bones."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, huh, okay. You know, you almost have to, like, okay, so with the
you're basically going, huh? You went with that?
Yeah, the 60 Minutes Australia interview that she gave, like that whole piece that they put together. You know, you almost have to give, well, you really do. You have to give the Australians a lot of credit there, because they're looking at this whole story, and for the interviewer, for the journalist that did it, I can't remember her name right now. She held a straight face the entire time.
I don't think the entire time.
Well, okay.
I saw a little glint. If you look at the interview, it is so freaking hilarious. Only because at one point in time she's like, "No, really? You going? Okay."
Yeah, that's what you're going with. Okay, sure.
All right,
yeah. Let's go with that. You know, but
this one was really, because you get. I love how you had so much footage on it, and it's so comical.
It is.
It was a so dark comedy, and yes, I have a really dark sense of humor to where I find it funny.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's horrible that these people died, but the way she acted was just. I mean,
it was almost like she was.
If you're having a bad day, you can watch this and just feel better about yourself.
She was creating the mold for Florida guy, for Florida man. I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, if there's one thing that Florida could put on their billboard and say, please don't be like, it's going to be these, her.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that was a special kind of, and I'm saying this as a Caucasian male, that's a special kind of white trash right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
With there, I said it again, with the drug problem.
The incest.
Don't
forget that.
The incest. Well, see, I don't think incest is so much. I don't think that that's limited to white people. Anyways, we're not going to go there. They have entire websites devoted to that. Anyway.
But if you're checking off stuff.
Yeah, if you're checking off things, I mean, you're talking about.
If you're playing white trash bingo.
If you're playing white trash back swamp bingo.
Yeah.
That's the free box right in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to have the incest. You're going to have the criminal history. You're going to have.
I'm sorry. I had to say it.
The foray into homosexuality.
Yeah.
And again, we're not. And it sucks that we have to put the
disclaimer. Well, we've always had a disclaimer. It's not the euphoria of.
We're not saying that homosexuality or incest leads to serial murderers. Yeah, I mean, come on, people.
I mean, I've hung out with lots of homosexuals.
So let's take our feelings off of our sleeves and put them back in our back pockets and just leave them there.
But it was, honestly, in a situation like that, I think it was homosexuality because she was lonely.
Yeah. And there are certain things, you can almost argue that both sides do that because of loneliness. But that being aside, it's one of the bigger reasons that you see out there. Let's just leave it at that.
Her actual lover knew about the prostitution.
Yeah.
So she was like, "Oh, she's still with me and she still loves me." I've been in that situation before too. Not good. Not good. She's gonna actually murky you. You might want to distance yourself a little bit.
You almost kind of have to wonder what was going on behind the scenes. With at home kind of a thing.
Well, they're both fat and ugly, so it was a lot of, I wouldn't even say like good scissoring. It was more or less like parts of the fat flap just hits the. I mean, I can go into full detail on this one. I mean, I accidentally clicked on a situation like this, and it was like a train wreck.
So you're saying that we shouldn't run with scissors and lesbians shouldn't scissor with the runs? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, fat lesbians shouldn't scissor. It is not attractive.
At him, people. Don't at me.
But no, that was another thing is on her last meal, apparently, this is reading off of some of the stuff that I was looking at. They got like a $20 limit on their last meal. The only thing she asked for was a cup of coffee. She was totally all right. She was literally wanting death.
Yeah, she said she was tired of the press. She was tired of the pictures, the interviews. She was tired of people talking about her, and I mean, you knew that she had to understand that they were going to continue to talk about her after she was gone. I think it was the fact that she just didn't want to hear it anymore.
Yeah.
She was tired of the prison officials coming to her saying, well, okay, you got another interview request. And she was tired of it. So, to that...
Well, here's the thing on that, though, is if she had an interview request, I mean, we have amples of interviews of her going down the line, and she always did the interviews. If she felt so compelled to where she was being oppressed by the press, because she even hated the fact that she was called a serial killer, which she was. She even said, hey, I'm not a serial killer because most serial killers that I know of are they torture their victims and everything. I didn't torture them. I just shot them and killed their money. Yes, it was wrong, but
yeah. And all of her murders aside, she had a really huge effect on pop culture going forward after she was executed.
How so? I never.
Well, okay, so in '03, the movie Monster with Charlize Theron. Back on the 16th of this month, actually, it was announced that Voltage Pictures acquired the worldwide rights. Thank you, I can speak English. For a production called American Boogie Woman, which is a prequel to Monster. Let's see, there was the television movie Overkill that we had talked about earlier. That was released in '92. That starred Jean Smart as Aileen. There was an antagonist in '02 for an episode of Law & Order SVU. An episode called Chameleon. Maggie Patterson, which was the protagonist's name, was a prostitute who murders her customers based on Wuornos. She'd been mentioned on crime television series as Criminal Minds. And there's a Criminal Minds novel, Killer Profile. She's one of the serial killers who was copied by the novel's main antagonist in that book. And then 2014, Saturday Night Live, Charlize Theron made a self-reference to her role as Aileen Wuornos in the movie Monster in a sketch called Pet Rescue Commercial. Kate McKinnon asked her to play a cat lady in the style of Aileen Wuornos. 2015, Lily Rabb portrayed a fictionalized version of Wuornos as a part of a Halloween storyline in American Horror Story Hotel in the 4th episode of the show's 5th season, and then later in the season finale. And then music, there was a lot of things, like there was a song by a group called Dolly's Circus named Eileen's Song. It was written and published in 2012. There was an operatic adaptation of Wuornos' life, premiered at the San Francisco Yerba Buena Center for the Arts on June 22nd of 2001, entitled Wuornos. The opera was written by Carla Lucero, conducted by Mary Chun, and produced by John Sims Center for the Performing Arts. Let me see here. Jewel wrote a song about her called Nicotine Love. The New York metalcore band It Dies Today, the 6th of June, is the name of their song. And then Pablo Hasél, do not get me to try to mispronounce or butcher that Spanish right there, but I know just enough Spanish to get myself in trouble at the Taco Casa drive-thru. That's about it. Let me see here.
I want to... man, I wish we would play this on... there was a parody version of Dolly Parton's Jolene called Aileen, inspired by War of the Rose.
William Belly's third solo album,
Yeah. I really want to listen to that now.
Gregarious.
We're listening to that after the show.
And then 2019, Cardi B recreated Wuornos' famous mugshot for her single Press.
Don't get me started on her. She's almost as bad as this one chick, other than the murky.
Cardi B makes music for women who like to...
They're household hookers.
You almost can't even make fun of White Claw people anymore, but because it's become so mainstream. But no, just I don't have a favorite. I don't care for Cardi B. I don't care for her music. I don't even think that she's all that attractive.
I'm surprised she's still not arrested after she. It's the statute of limitation on what she did.
Oh yes, yeah.
Because it's one of those things. It's like Cardi B's this. She changed so much, and when she became a rapper, I'm like, no, she didn't. While she was trying to be a rapper.
Yeah. Let me see here. 2020, a rapper named Sadistic released Aileen Wuornos, a song dedicated to her on his Delirium EP. So, I mean, she's constantly coming up in pop culture.
Well, all the serial killers, really.
Well,
in one form of fashion.
Yeah, but Much of her childhood sexual abuse and career in prostitution, yeah, I mean, you can credit that as being the reason for a lot of her damage, but again, I think a lot of it does go back to her childhood, but we still have the ability, we still have the resources available to rise above those situations. She just chose to be bitter, and she got comfortable in that place.
Yeah, at the end of it, 'cause she didn't actually start doing that until she turned 40.
Yeah.
Of course, Vicky Jackson did the same thing. It wasn't until her later years, I guess. And I hate to say it, women's biology, when it comes to reaching like 40 and everything, with menopause and everything, they have different factors working against them to go crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they said that her traumatic upbringing, including her physical and sexual abuse, had been partially linked to the development of her borderline personality disorder.
And it's not us being like feminist or anything like
no,
it's
or
just,
misogynistic. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But they're saying that such severe trauma can also interrupt the development of the mind and result in primitive dissociative and splitting defenses to ward off the intensity of emotional and sexual stimulation that cannot be integrated as a child. So yes, while you are getting those abuses and they're kind of being ingrained into your psyche, those are going to be scars that are going to be with you forever. I mean, that's just, there's no way around that.
Yeah, if you really want to scar somebody up, you do it psychologically, not physically.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the hardest scars to heal are the ones that you can't see. I mean, it sounds cliche, it sounds bumper sticker or platitude-esque, but at the end of the day, yeah, it's true. I mean, you really want to you'll have a lasting effect on somebody. Don't mess with their physicality. I mean, you go after their mental state. And a lot of that is the MO of a narcissist. So a narcissist, as we've discussed in previous episodes, they'll use somebody up that they see as a challenge, and then they'll discard them and make them the aggressor, and then they assume the role of the victim.
Well, that's actually a lot of criminals.
Yeah, they do.
Because talking to a lot of drug dealers when I was actually in corrections, they always go up. Their first thing is like, you know how much I made when I was outside? It was $100,000 a year. I'm like, but you're not making that now. But you got to look at the past and see how much I was worth back then. I was like, you're worth about two cigarettes right now from what I was told.
Kind of like Yankees fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
we can go back and talk about after she was executed. She was cremated and her ashes were spread under a tree, but
in the song.
Yeah, Natalie Merchant's song "Carnival" was played at her funeral.
Yeah. Well, I can edit that if I wanted to, but
yeah,
we
what's
have
the point?
so many low on views and everything.
People will be like, "Well, this is kind of quirky."
Yeah.
Okay.
But
one day we'll actually grow up and be like an actual honest to God podcast with structure and substance to it. It'd be nice.
Those aren't fun. I watched those, and those aren't fun.
Well, like Mike Rose, the way I heard it, I love that podcast. And
he gets straightforward and everything. But look at Time Suck. He does the same thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
But he does a lot of comedy in between. And half the time, I'm like, listen to it. It's like, is that real?
So you're saying I should start bringing Nerf guns to the studio?
That note, I think I was going for the next episode. Right next to her in this book that I wanted to go in, it was this case in Britain about two kids that ended up killing and torturing like an 11 or 10-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go over the kids that kill type deal.
Yeah, there was another thing too I picked up on. It was an Australian serial murderer. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. I saw a piece about it, about two girls that escaped. They were hitchhikers in Australia. They were tourists, basically. And he picked them up and took them to a place called Salt Creek. And tried to bash them with a hammer, tried to rape one of them, and they both escaped. So I was like, well, that kind of intrigued me a little bit because this guy, he was just like Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Here we go. Robert Thompson and John Venables. I don't know if I'm getting that right. We'll go over that next week. It happened in 1993. But, yeah. Check us out on Facebook. Comment if you want. And we'll catch you next time.